You are listening to the Doc Malik podcast. This show is 100% independent and fully funded by listeners like yourself. So, if you wish to support Ahmed in all that he is doing, then please subscribe to his channel on Spotify or his Substack. Or simply buy him a coffee with a one-off donation, links to which can be found at docmalik.com. Now, let's get on with the show.
Guys, I've been waiting to get Simon on the podcast. What can I tell you? For at least, about 2 years, basically. I mean, I love the guy. I've been following him. And whenever I read one of his posts, I would like fist pump, go, yeah, man, yeah. He was right about COVID. He's right about the climate. He's right about the trans. He's right about so much. It's just crazy. Anyway. Oh man, trying to nail him down has been quite hard, but finally I bagged it and I got so excited. And then there was some issue at his end, there was some road blockage and he couldn't get home. And then the podcast was cancelled. Then I tried to squeeze it on a Sunday, even though I don't tend to do podcasts on a Sunday. And then, it was late in the evening. I was just so excited. And then we had tech issues for some reason. Like his camera would freeze and I would freeze on his end. There was this massive delay between when we were talking. So then I had to do something called low data mode, which means I can't see him and he can't see me. So now we're doing a remote chat, but we can't see each other. And then factor in a delay of about a second. Then we were talking over each other. Oh man, it was just not ideal, but still great. Oh yeah, and amongst all this nonsense, somehow my mic wasn't turned on. For some reason, the recording is on my laptop mic, which is inferior to my Rodecaster and Shure mic. So I sound a bit echoey. So apologies about that. You know, if anybody knows me and listens to my podcast enough, you know, I'm quite anal about getting everything perfect and just having a high quality product. I feel like I dropped the ball on this one and I feel really upset because I had such an amazing guest in the form of Simon. So, yeah, but I have to publish it because it's Simon. I can't just bin it. I can't do that. Not after trying to get him for 2 years. I mean, I just love the guy. I mean, there's so much I agree with. I think there's only one thing I disagree with. But even that, like, I respect where he's coming from and I don't agree with it. Got my own take on the issue, but it doesn't detract from my respect for him and valuing his thoughts. I think on so many issues, he's on the money. Big time. So hopefully I'll be able to get him back again and we will be able to resolve some of the tech issues and I can get my mic working. Maybe one day when he's kind of passing through, he will drop by in London. But maybe nowadays people might not want to visit London. It's a bit crazy here in England. But yeah, without further ado, let's roll on to the podcast. And yeah, I'm sorry, folks, for product quality. I hope it won't detract from the conversation. Enjoy, folks. Bye-bye. So just in case anybody's wondering, it's slightly difficult for us doing this podcast because normally we can see each other. Like, I mean, it's difficult enough doing it remote. I like people in my studio. It's just so much nicer. You've got the energy of people. You can get the little visual cues. When it's remote, it's very difficult. There's always a lag, so you can't read the other person. You don't know when to interject. You end up talking over each other. And with us, we've got an even double problem where we can't even see each other because for some reason it was glitchy. So I'm on low data mode, which means I can't see you. But the final video will show the both of us. Anyway, Simon, you are the definition of delayed gratification. I've been trying to get you on the podcast for you are. I've been trying to get you on the podcast for 2 years. I can't believe this is actually happening. Listen, I've been watching you over the last few years. I've been very impressed by you. I really like you. Man, you know what? I don't actually see anything that you've messaged or tweeted that I actually fundamentally disagree with. That's honest truth.
Oh wow! So you're a big minority.
Yeah, it's scary, isn't it? Like, I'm like, seriously, I'm looking for something. I'm like, shit, can't really find anything. But listen, you're a PhD biotechnologist. You're a senior researcher at this the largest European research thing. It's CINEF or
I used to be. Yes.
Yeah, it used to be. That's what I mean. You even wrote a paper in August 2020 telling people, look, take lots of vitamin D and you'll be fine from COVID. I mean, you're right from the beginning, off the bat, saying the right things. When did you lose your job? Why? I mean, you lost your job twice. Can you just explain?
Jobs, actually 3 times. Well, the first one was I had shares of a company worth millions, and they weren't happy with what I said, so I lost my shares. But at least they paid some part, at least a fraction of its worth, of its value. And then the second one was half a year later. So the first one was end of 2020, and the second one was beginning of 2021. And the third one was...
Why did the second one let you go?
I exposed the PCR test fraud by Christian Drosten, this PCR protocol paper that bypassed peer review and literally got us into the pandemic. So it was just like explaining the peer review process and was saying nothing makes sense. You cannot get a publication published from submission to publication within 1 day. It was just like explaining why. And that time I was an editor of a Springer Nature journal, and I was making a Twitter thread with all the screenshots, how it works, how the back end works of a peer review process, explaining every single step and why no process took place, or why they skipped the peer review process in this case, which got us into this tyranny. So I didn't use these words, tyranny, etc. So I tried to stay very neutral and still showing that that fraud was committed. And yeah, they didn't like that. Most likely because it was a Dutch university, and the co-author of Christian Drosten's paper was the Dutch state virologist, and I was asking her why she didn't say anything, seeing that her publication got literally published from within 1 day. So every science, if I were co-author of a paper, and I saw this happening, I would be like, what the fuck? And the same time she was on the WHO committee to make this test gold standard the next day. So she was involved in this corruption, and I wasn't saying it, but I was asking questions. And so I was told by professors from university that they were told from above to get rid of me. So I don't have it in a written form. It was phone calls, and I didn't record them because it came out of nowhere, out of the blue. So I didn't record anything. I didn't collect evidence back then. So they were just telling me that I'm too critical, and I should know when to shut the fuck up, and that they're going to get someone less critical, and that they were told to get rid of me. So this is all the information I got, and but yeah, it happened. And of course, they were not happy with my vitamin D papers, although it's an accurate paper, and they even read it because they were told by many people that I was spreading dangerous misinformation on the internet, which literally was only my vitamin D paper because I didn't use social media back then. And they were criticizing me for publishing on a topic that's super hot right now. But in 2020, everybody was like vitamin D conspiracy theory, etc. And this was when my paper got published. So they didn't like that at all. So I was literally told, like, shut up. So, and there were some more stories going on, but everything was super weird and nothing made sense to me. So I just kept on going until they got rid of me.
Dude, we've got so many parallels. I mean, I'm in England. You're at the time Holland, but you had one of the reasons why I feel like I can trust you is, you had a successful career. You're doing a great job. You didn't have a social media presence. You weren't a TV celebrity. You didn't push the jab at any point. You had a perfectly happy life. And the moment you just started saying, hey, what the hell is going on here? And start asking questions, your life literally got turned upside down. Guess what? Same with me. I was very happy.
Yeah, with everybody who spoke out, right?
Exactly. Not everybody spoke out. There's a lot of people who were at the time pushing the jab or lockdowns, and then they did a flip. There's a lot of those around.
I know.
And
Many.
There's a lot of people. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to. Yeah, this is
so literally the biggest heroes, I'll say heroes of our movement. They were all in the beginning pro lockdowns, pro vax. Peter McCullough totally pro Paxlovid until late 2022. So really big pharma shills. And then when the tables were turning, they were like, jumping on board.
Well, let's name them. Look, Asim Malhotra, Angus Dalgleish, Robert Malone, he took a shot. Brett Weinstein, Jordan Peterson, take the goddamn shot. Ben
Shapiro, all of them, literally almost all of them. There were just a few who were allowed in the beginning, and most of them lost their jobs, and they never became like a poster girl, poster boy of the movement. Actually, none of those who spoke out since the beginning became poster girls or poster boys. No. All these faces you see in every documentary, and mainstream documentary, and every alternative media movie. I mean, like, they never invite me. I'm part of one documentary, but that's it. But you see, like, McCullough, literally in every single one, and nobody's critical why he pushed Paxlovid. It's, to me, this is pure evil. And nobody's asking about his involvement in this liberal company.
Okay, we'll come to that. We'll come to that in a second.
Yeah, but let's not talk about this.
No, but yeah, I'm going to come to that in a second. Actually, I need to thank you publicly, and I'll explain that in a second. But yeah, this is what I mean. I'm the exact same as you. I don't get invited to any conferences, world tours, and I see the same faces going round and round, and I'm like, that's interesting. So, like I said, Peter McCullough is like pushing Tamiflu in his pandemic preparedness pack, and that's all right. You got Angus Dalgleish pushing COVID, cancer vaccines, and not questioning childhood vaccine. You got Asim Malhotra not challenging childhood vaccines, and you think, that's interesting. And there's so many people who suffered and were calling it out right from the beginning. I mean, like yourself, Sucrit Bhakti, Thomas Binder. I mean, we can go on and on. Mike
Thomas
Eden.
Binder did a great job, and he's like, they put him into some kind of prison in Switzerland.
Mental incarceration. Told him to take meds.
He was right about everything, but people forget about him, and then you have this when there was these parliamentary hearings in Europe, be it Croatia or the EU Parliament. I mean, I'm European, right? And I'm one of the biggest voices. I'm a scientist. I was exposing the PCR test. I was pushing for vitamin D since the beginning. I was right about everything. And I mean, like, I probably couldn't have gone there, let's be honest, because I live in the Brazilian rainforest. But I was invited. So who was, for example, speaking at the European Parliament? It were the Backstreet Boys from the US, like, the boy band who was like literally touring all over the world. As the poster boys. But I mean, like, I don't take it personally. I wouldn't like that much attention as well. But it's super weird, especially as many of them, as I said, were just jumping on the train very late. And they're great people as well. So Ryan Cole, for example, amazing. He's been right from the beginning, and he hasn't done any weird statements, but others, I'm very, very critical towards what's going on there, and who was pushed and why they were pushed. And if you check their early life, not on Wikipedia, but you can just check it on the internet what they did before, then you're like, this is weird. This doesn't appear organic to me. But just like my opinion, it could be organic. I don't know. But there are some weird stuff going on in the background. That's why I don't want to be involved with all these people. And I think it's better like this, and it's always better to stay independent.
I'm the same, dude. I'm independent. I'm not part of any group, affiliation, alliance, or anything. I was slightly later to the party than you. I mean, I was an orthopedic foot and ankle surgeon. I was fixing broken bones and bunions. All of this was kind of outside of my lane. I felt like all my life I've suffered from imposter syndrome, right? So I mean, my gut instinct was like, what the fuck? I mean, I fell for the pandemic porn, lockdown porn for about 3-4 weeks in the beginning, but then very quickly, as soon as lockdown happened, I was like, whoa, 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 what is going on here? And then I flipped 180 degrees. But I was locked outside the hospitals. I was stuck in my garden with 3 young kids. And I just knew something was desperately wrong. I was on all these like Telegram groups, and I was involved with the Brexit party, so I had a lot of these like kind of like dissident people already. I knew them, and they were like, "There's going to be digital ID, and there's going to be vaccine passports and mRNA gene technology." And I was like, and this is back in like April 2020. I was like, "What? My friends are all going crazy," and I was like, getting a little bit. I was going down all these rabbit holes and kind of losing the plot a bit. So I just unplugged, and I didn't really have any social media account. I just had an Instagram account called the London Foot and Ankle Surgeon with pictures of bunions, and it's still there. If you look up Doc Ahmed Malik, it's just like go back long enough, you see all these operations and X-rays, and that's my backstory. And then suddenly I'm like, I need to start looking into this. Like, I need to trust my gut instinct. And the more I looked into it, the more I was like, fuck the fact that I'm a foot and ankle surgeon. Like, this is not right. This is seriously wrong. And it took me time to build the confidence to speak out. And then I started. And then, like you, the moment something went viral, I had this one tweet that got over 1 million views. The hospitals came down like a ton of bricks, and they said, like, be quiet. If you ever do this again, you're going to be kicked out of the hospital. And I had the help of a lawyer, and I kept writing back letters, and there's just this constant ping pong, ping pong. Eventually, they got me on, my tweets on trans agenda, which I think is just another facet of the enemy's attack on humanity.
Yeah, they got David Cartlin like this as well with a trans tweet, and they, that's what they do. They look at the weaknesses. They look at what else you could have said.
Oh, and it's anonymous complaints, by the way. They're all anonymous complaints. And the final nail in the coffin when my guest accurately and truthfully stated that there were some officials in the Israeli government who wanted to ethnically cleanse Gaza. And the hospital said, "Oh, you're anti-Semitic. We're going to suspend you again." It's like, so I was like at work. I knew the writing was on the wall. I was that last investigation was overturned after 5 months, and they said, "Yes, you're not anti-Semitic." But the punishment is the process. Like, if you can't work, you can't see patients, and you're dragging it out for months, and your patients all disappear and they go elsewhere and they don't know if you're still around or not, and you're just hemorrhaging cash, and you're just kicked out of one hospital, then another. Like, you can't. That's not a way to keep a business running. And after that, I had already spoken to so many doctors around the world, and I saw the same pattern: investigations, suspensions, investigations, hemorrhaging cash through lawfare, going on for years, and then finally being expelled and publicly disgraced, like Sam White or whoever. And I didn't want that, so I handed back my license. Pretty much like I think what you did. You just went, well, fuck you, and you went off on your own.
I mean, like, I didn't have another chance. Same, like, I've lawsuits still going on against the Norwegian ones. They fired me unlawfully. So that's what the judge said. But the judge said also, you still have to pay the other's party lawyers. So actually, they said, like, they fired you unlawfully, but you have to pay the whole process cost of $100,000. It doesn't make any sense. So of course we are appealing, because it doesn't make any sense at all. Like, but that's how governments work. They try to get you with nonsense and whatever. Just like in this case, I mean, like, they fired me for exceeding my freedom of speech on Twitter. I mean, like, how can you exceed your freedom of speech? At least they fired me for that. And then I won the lawsuit, and I had some sub lawsuits that I think were still valid, but like the judge didn't see it like that. So they made me build a demo system here in the jungle for a project with my own money. They didn't pay me back. And then the judge said, like, I built it with my limited company, so it wasn't myself, so it's invalid, and all this stuff. So super weird things were going on, like super weird things. But this is what happens if you sue a semi governmental organization, right? So the judges, I think, will never be on your side, which is my opinion. But yeah, then in Europe they were freezing my bank accounts without notice, just like saying, "Oh, it's closed. Why? Oh, and stuff like this." And then I had to leave Europe. I mean, like, I had the police at my doorstep several times for literally nothing, for just checking if I'm quarantining or something. which I wasn't, but luckily these times I were at home. And it's like super wild. It was super wild. And at some point I was just like, okay, the next thing they're going to do is arrest me for nothing, you know. That's what's happening in Europe. I mean, in Great Britain, you only have to post a meme and you go to jail. So it's quite dangerous.
Yeah, dude, you're 100% right. You're not exaggerating. Like, you could literally go to jail. You'd say the wrong thing. I mean, you should look into something called communitarian law. I've done a podcast on it, and it's widespread. It's a tool of the enemy, and part of it is lawfare. And the EU is rife with communitarian law. And for example, in the UK, it's the same. So what they'll say is, you have the right for freedom of speech. So in the Human Rights Act, subset 10A or whatever it is, like, you have your right for freedom of expression and freedom of speech, right? And that sounds great, like, fantastic. But then 10B is, however, if your freedom of speech impacts public health or endangers the greater good or whatever, or hampers the government message, then you're not allowed your freedom of speech. So on one hand, they grant it, and on one hand, they take it away. And that's what they did to Sam White. They said, yeah, you're allowed to talk out against COVID, but you know what? You're going against the public health message. You're undermining the trust in the medical profession. So you no longer have your freedom of speech, and we're going to take your license from you. See the bullshit there?
But that's like this all over the world. So I moved to Brazil because of my wife and Bolsonaro, because Brazil was quite free when Bolsonaro was the president during COVID, like totally free. I mean, literally. But nowadays with Lula as a president, so it was just like recently, last week, there's a comedian here in Brazil, and he made jokes about Jews and black people. He makes jokes about everything. He's white, but he also makes jokes about white people. He makes jokes about everything, black humor, about everything. There's nothing he doesn't make fun of, right? He makes fun of obese people a lot, autistic people. I'm autistic, but I mean, like, I don't get offended by his jokes, but he makes jokes, you know. So he has his shows where people go and he makes jokes, and someone denounced him, and he has to go to 8 years and 4 months of prison now for making jokes. I mean, it's just crazy. And the jokes, some of them are funny. I mean, like, everybody has their own humor, and others are like not funny from my point of view. But the majority, I think, is funny. But I have a very dark humor as well. Anyways, yeah, they said like he made fun of minorities. We have to protect minorities. 8 years of jail, 8 years, 4 months. So it's wild for making jokes, for having a show, and his shows he's super famous. 10,000 people usually going to his shows, so it's huge. You know, it's a huge crowd. And they're going after them for discrimination of minorities. So
I saw that guy on your timeline. I looked him up. I mean, some of his jokes, I cringed a little bit. Some of them I thought they were funny. I mean,
his pedophile jokes are not funny, in my opinion. But I mean, like, he's making jokes about everything. That's like his thing, you know. There's nothing he doesn't make jokes about. And so.
But dude, I don't care how offensive someone is. That's their freedom of speech. You know, it doesn't.
It's your choice to be offended. And if you don't go to his show, but you still look it up online on YouTube or whatever, and then open a lawsuit against him. I mean, like, you just don't watch the videos. You know, if you don't like his humor, don't go to the show. But I mean, the woke judge was like, okay, we have to protect minorities, and that's what they do here. So if you're white, you're screwed because you're not a minority. They can make fun of you. But if you're, I don't know, an autistic black Jew, you're literally three times, so they can make fun of you at all. Yeah.
100%. Listen, so publicly, what I want to say is thank you. So way back, I know you probably can't remember, it was about 2 years ago, you warned me about a particular health and wellness company. And we won't name them, but let's just say you said, Ahmed, stay away from them. They're not good for you. Now, at the time, I didn't know anything. I didn't know who to trust. And I was like, well, you know, I want to try certain, you know, alternative healthcare system. I'd love to create something better. I hate the sick care system that we're in. But I found out to my cost that they were not a good company. And I heeded your warning slowly. And it was always there in the back of my mind. I just want to say thank you. You didn't need to reach out to me. But yeah, I agree with you. You're 100% right. And the funny thing is, I also realize that, it's difficult when you're trying to help someone. Sometimes they're not in the right place. And sometimes people can turn and go, oh, I don't need your help. What, stop meddling with it. It's none of your goddamn business. It's kind of risky going out to help someone when they don't ask for it. And you did. And I just want to say thank you. I appreciate it, buddy.
I knew what was going on in the background. I was in a group chat and I read everything, and it was like super scary, like a huge scam project. Oh yeah, my color is part of it. But what they've been doing is, in my opinion, super immoral. And if you check who's behind it, liberals, deep state, and then it can't be any good. And, people who spoke out against them were like, let's call it mafioso methods. So we're attacked publicly, threatened, etc. So this is not no normal company that really cares about your health, threatens others for raising questions. So yes, I saw that you were like more or less interested. So I warned you, I warned others. So at least I gave you guys information to read and to inform yourself about what's going on in the background and who's behind it. Eric Prince, for example, stay away from everything where he's involved in. So it was just like a small warning for people I follow, for people I like. So happy to help. But I think that people, if people really want to change the system, they don't set up a website like this and with a scam products, etc. So this doesn't make sense. So if people are honest, the movement would look different than being backed by some liberal billionaire. So it doesn't make lots of sense to me.
Yeah, neither does it to me. I mean, it's too good to be true. I mean, the funny thing is, Simon, I know in the world of academia, it's pretty cutthroat. A lot of backstabbing, a lot of conflicts of interest, a lot of political schmoozing goes on in academia. It's the same kind of like in orthopedics, very type A personalities, a lot of narcissists. It's quite, I didn't get on well with a lot of orthopods because I didn't like them. There were some very good ones, especially in my subspecialty. Foot and ankle surgeons tend to be really nice people.
Question: Do you have dwarf chickens?
I've got chickens. You want me to shut the door? Is it very loud?
But they are dwarf chickens. They're the small ones, right?
Yes, bantams. How do you know?
I can hear it.
All right, let me pause and I'm going to shut my studio door. Hold on 1 second.
All right.
Someone once said, when you keep chickens, it's the gateway to conspiracy land. Anyway, so what I was saying was, I thought orthopedics was, cutthroat. Academia was cutthroat. In this space where we are with the dissidents, I've realized, oh my God, it's so murky. Like, you don't know who you can trust, who's a chaos agent, who's out just to ride the wave and is a narcissist and wants fame and glory and has no principle and no honor, no integrity. Have you found that?
Yeah. It's like
I can't name and shame. I don't want to do that.
No, I can't. But that's what I always tell to my wife. I was like, it's like, she's like, you're hating everybody there. I'm like, yeah. And explaining to her, like, why, I mean, they're very genuine people out there, and there are many people I really, really appreciate, but like these big players, just one example. So, let's go to US politics, when Trump says something and all these people cheer without thinking for themselves, or a situation with Israel, most of the people who were critical towards COVID are totally sucking circumcised dick right now. So, and once you literally speak out, and I always say I'm on neither side. I don't like Islamic extremism, just like I don't Zionism, but like, the degree, the extent to how Israel is responding, and let's say responding actually, with the same logic, you could say that Hamas was responding on October 7th, because, there's a whole history before there as well. It goes forth and back. But the way Israel is doing this and the way people are cheering for this, are cheering for a genocide, and it is a genocide, it's just scary. And I was one of the few people, let's say, big voice of COVID who was speaking out against this. And all the others are still continuing cheering because they're playing political games. They want to make career. They want to, they literally say, what the government wants them to say, what the movement wants them to say, what the rhinos wants them to say, which I think is a bit scary. So you got all these voices. I can name one, Charlie Kirk, for example. Cringe. People love him, but extreme cringe. So he would say everything, and then when you talk about dancing Israelis during 9/11 or USS Liberty, he's like totally silent, or he would say like, oh no, it wasn't an attack by Israel on USS Liberty, and conspiracy theorist. That's what he said when he debated college guys. So people who are on one side now against these Mexican immigrants and saying like people who are supporting another country and living in the United States should be exported, but actually they're the same. They're like Americans supporting Israel more than America, but like, it doesn't account to them, export these Mexican people, but like keep the others. So I think there is so much hypocrisy. And if you read through the tweets of these people, it jumps right into your face. You're like, what the heck, why are they like this? I mean, like, to me, it's impossible not to see it, but they have an agenda. And many of them have an agenda. And I know some of them who play the game. They're like, okay, Simon, if we say what you say, they will never invite us again to CPAC. They will never invite us again to all these different events. So I don't get invited, literally never. I got invited to Tucker Carlson to the podcast, uninvited the next day, literally. Same with Tim Pool. So people invite me, and then someone must be there saying, like, oh, you don't want to have him. He's not one of us, or whatever. I don't know what's going on, but there's something going on in the background. And I don't know who's pulling the strings, but I can see the people who, who are part of it, who let it happen, who want to be close to whoever is in power, who don't want to be critical in case something weird is happening. For example, this big, beautiful bill. But I mean, like, actually, I could say I'm in Brazil. I couldn't care less, but my companies look at it in the US. So actually, it depends on the US economy. So it's very important for me as well that this country is doing great. And then there are politicians like Thomas Massie, who is like totally upright. He's trying to do the best for the country, best for the people, and he also gets he also gets attacked by people, by AIPAC. AIPAC says like, oh, we're going to get rid of him. Trump says, oh, we need to get rid of him, because he's one of the only ones who dares to speak out for humanity, to speak out for the people, to oppose the deep state. And if you surround yourself with people who think like yourself, like for example Thomas Massie, MTG, and there are several others, right? And then you understand who is not part of your team. It's those who stop making sense. They made sense during COVID, yes. And then another current thing that's going on that goes against the party affiliation they support, and then suddenly they follow the narrative. And this is how I select people, how I see people. And literally, there's not a lot left once you're there. And now we're just like, through 4 crises, which is like literally COVID, maybe the climate, the gender stuff, and now Israel. And not many people left.
No. Like, it's funny, during COVID, they were like, oh, we don't trust the government, we don't trust MSM. And Ukraine war came first, and a whole bunch went, oh, Putin's Hitler. And I was like, what? You just spent the last 2 years saying you don't trust the government and MSM, and now you believe the bullshit?
What's the weirdest? I have to tell you, it's literally all right-wing accounts, even like Cash, Demongina, everybody, like now they're part of the government. Is like, okay, Epstein didn't kill himself, and then suddenly these people sit there just like little boys who just got blackmailed or just were like got locked into their room or did something bad, and they say like, oh, well, we saw the video, he really killed himself. And all these voices, all these big voices, yes, we trust him, Epstein killed himself. I'm like, what the heck? This is the definition of an NPC, always trying to be critical. Epstein didn't kill himself. And once like one governmental official says like, oh, he did, and everybody, they did. So it's, all these fun they made about NPCs, that liberals are NPCs, like they're not much different. Do you remember when they gave these Epstein files in these folders to these big influencers, and they were like, "There, look, Epstein files, finally," and there was nothing new in there. And when everybody's like, okay, actually they didn't publish anything, the same accounts, almost all of them, by the way, are pro-Israel, and we know that that this Epstein thing was like a Mossad blackmail campaign, and all these people are silent. Just look them up. Just check who got these folders, the Epstein folders. Just check it out. Go on their X account. Use the search function. There's from, and then the handle, and then until. Then you say since 2025 March, and then until now, and you type in Epstein. You don't see anything. These people are quiet, totally quiet.
Cash was on Joe Rogan, and I loved it. His response was, "Hey, just trust me, bro. There's nothing there. Trust me, bro. Like, yeah, trust me, bro. If I saw something, do you not think I would tell you? No, I don't think you would, actually."
He also said like, "Oh, there are no videos." And Bondi said 3 months ago, "Oh yeah, there are thousands of videos. And we have to we have to check that the victim is not on there and that cannot be seen." So how come there are thousands of videos of acts, And she says she has them. And then several months later, he says like, "Oh no, there are no videos. Trust me, bro." And these people, these big NPC accounts, "Oh yeah, you said they're not there. Okay, I'm done." And now they're on the next thing, saying all the immigrants are bad and should be deported and whatever, It's just fucked up. So
the thing is, it's a complete damage limitation and really shit one as well. But I love the fact you call it the right-wing people. And I'm going to explain in a little monologue where I'm going with this. So we know the left, the libtards, have just lost the plot. I mean, they're mentally deranged. I mean, the fact that they think it's okay for grown men to walk around with puppies with their butt cheeks sticking out in front of kids and do drag queen story time, and mutilate kids and chop off their breasts. I mean, the fact they think that's all right, or have men with dicks in a female all-girl changing room. I mean, they're lost. They're completely lost the plot, right? But the idea that the right conservative wing that we are promoted in the alternative media, the mainstream alternative media, we're not mainstream alternative media. They're equally deluded or propagandizing. And, take, for example, James Lindsay, right? He's about anti-communism, anti-woke, anti-trans, Billboard Chris, anti-trans.
Oh.
But the thing is, they're also so pro-Zionism, it's pro-genocide, and it's like, can't you see? And they want to censor and shut up anyone who says the wrong thing. So free speech now goes out the window so they cry about the fact there's no free speech under the left, but then when they have control and they think they're right, they don't want any protests in the campuses, they don't want any freedom of speech, they want people deported, and it's like, how are you any different from the woke left?
They want Palantir to now spy on everybody. It's so crazy. In order to find illegals, let's say they said like we should use it to find all the illegals and to deport them. In order to find them, they have to spy on everybody. It's like the logic. But they're like fine with it. They were like, oh no, the servant state and like the liberty under Biden, but now under Trump they actually are in favor of a more rigid method.
Quick break. Are you feeling overwhelmed by the healthcare system? Are you unsure of who to consult, what questions to ask, or how to interpret tests and your diagnosis? Are you walking out of a consultation room with more questions than answers? After all, most consultations are 5 to 7 minutes, rushed, in and then out. With 25 years as experience as a doctor and a surgeon, working in both the public and the private healthcare systems, I've got this unparalleled expertise. I really understand the nuts and bolts of the system, as well as what it truly means to be healthy. I've had the privilege of collaborating and learning from hundreds of leading health experts over the last 2 years. And through my own personal experience of turning around my own health, I've got a good idea of what it means to be healthy and what a real healthy lifestyle looks like. I'm deeply committed to medical ethics. I value informed consent, and I believe in protecting bodily autonomy. In today's world where trust in the healthcare system can feel elusive, you can count on me to always prioritize your best interests. So whether it's guidance or education or information you're looking for that's unbiased, no conflicts of interest, no financial gain to be got from me, from jabbing you or operating on you. If you just want a sounding board or a second opinion, then consider booking an online consultation with me. I'm not acting as a doctor to treat you or diagnose you, but I'm here as a health advocate and an educator to empower you with the knowledge to ask the right questions, to make the right decisions, and to show you the path to true health. So book an online consultation with me. Visit my website, docmalik.com/consultations. Thank you, folks.
Listen, people assume I'm a Muslim, and they accuse me on Twitter every day. You freaking Muslim!
Oh, you aren't?
I'm not.
Okay.
No.
I thought you were, but I don't care.
I gave it up a long time ago, dude. Over 15 years ago, right? And I just believe in God, the divine consciousness, or whatever. I'm not an atheist. There's definitely something we've been created.
Then you're an agnostic. It's called agnostic. You believe in God, but you don't follow a specific book or whatever. It's
Absolutely,
just like me,
right. So there's something, but I don't like organized religion. I think it's all captured. It's all about guilt, shame, and control. And Abrahamic religions are all very, very similar. People don't realize. And actually, Islam and Christianity have got a lot more in common than in Judaism, because Islam and Christianity believe in Jesus being the Messiah. They believe in him being the virgin son, like the son to the Virgin Mary. They believe that Mary is a very important person. They believe that Jesus died on the cross and was resurrected and went to heaven. And they believe that Jesus is going to come back.
I think they believe he went to heaven right away, but he will come back in order to save humanity. So, I mean, the stories are slightly different, right?
But what I'm trying to say is there's still a lot, like...
A lot in common. And if you check out Judaism, they believe that he's boiling and semen and excrements in hell. And this is Judeo-Christian, but like...
this is what I mean. So when people talk about Judeo-Christian values, I'm like, you guys are completely the opposite. Like... What are you talking about? Like, if you go to a Muslim household, like almost every third girl is called Maryam, which is Mary, because like it's such a, she's such an important figure in the Quran. I think she's the most commonly cited female name in the Quran. So like, there's a lot of, attention put on her, and she's put up there with respect. So like, when people talk about Judeo-Christian values and these Muslims are barbaric and anti-Christian, I'm like, you do know they're waiting for Jesus to come back as well.
I can see why people say this. Let's say, radical Islamism exists, but there's always causality. So why does it exist? And then we go back to the country of the people who usually accuse this existence. It's the US was overthrowing all the governments, be it in Iran in 53, or be it or they were like founding Mujahideen or Al Qaeda. ISIS, we know that ISIS is backed by Israel. So the thing is that radical Islamism is a tool of the West, and at the same time they say, we need to deport Muslims because of radical Islamism that they cause themselves. Just check Syria right now. In Syria, we have literally Al Qaeda in the government, but they're fine with this. When they had literally an atheist doctor who was a president of Syria, and everybody could live there more or less freely until, of course, you weren't allowed to criticize the government, just like in other Western countries. But still, Syria was very free. What people don't know and what people usually don't communicate. But this was a problem, but now Al-Qaeda is no problem. So these people who say like, radical Islam is an issue, should be quiet. And of course, I agree, there shouldn't, this mass immigration in Europe of poor people from third world countries. And, it doesn't matter whether they're poor Christians and poor Muslims, but the fact that there is no green card system, and you usually take the poorest of the poorest into the country, and usually the poorest of the poorest are not, as civilized as higher educated people. So then you import a problem anyway. It doesn't matter which religion they have. And unfortunately, that's what you see in England. Like, I've been to London, I was like, where the fuck am I? It's scary even. It's on Paris. In Paris, I was like, I mean, I lived in Africa in Nairobi in Kenya, and I went to Paris and was like, what? am I in Kenya now? So it's really scary, and I'm against this, and I think every culture should maintain their culture, and this mass immigration is destroying the culture, and once a country doesn't have a culture anymore, it's getting weak, and it can't survive. So I see it from that perspective, but I'm not against immigrants, because I think especially if you take immigrants.
You're an immigrant. You're an immigrant.
I'm an immigrant, yes. But I speak Portuguese fluently, so I'm a Portuguese podcast, so I integrate myself here in society. So that's a different story, because maybe I have a good scientific background, and I'm maybe smarter than the average, so I know how to integrate myself. And I think you see the same in other countries. So, for example, very smart people who get a green card in the US, within one generation, they can already be totally integrated. Whereas if you take people from Eastern Anatolia, it took like 3 generations or even more. So that's the situation in Europe, right? And that's causing problems in Göteborg, in Malmö, in Sweden, for example, in London. Check out big parts of Germany. Every day there's someone stabbing someone, who's from Afghanistan, who's from Libya or Algeria. Algeria is like crazy. Yeah, it shouldn't happen. So the right-wing people, I understand them, and they say we need to close the borders, and I'm totally with them. But this discrimination, on against one group of people, but like letting another group of people commit genocide at the same time and be on both sides, that doesn't make any sense to me. So I condemn everything. So I get enemies from all sides. I get enemies who are Muslims who are in Europe, like, okay, you want to deport these people? Oh my gosh, you're an asshole, And then I got the Zionists are against me, saying that I'm a Hamas supporter, and I mean, like, I hate them. I mean, like, for me, they what they are doing is immoral, and they're a tool of Israel anyway. So it's being too critical sometimes doesn't get you anywhere. But I mean, like, I just don't give a fuck anymore.
You're the only large social media account who is calling at this. You get your Douglas Murrays, your Chris Constantines, or whatever his name is, Trigonometry, or your Douglas Murrays, your Jordan Petersons, or whatever, your right-wing person. All they do is they say, oh, these goddamn Muslims are at the gates, they're barbarians, they're destroying our culture. Part of it is the truth. What they don't ever say is, like, why they're here. Who's brought them here? Look, this is a massive logistical effort to dilute the native cultures and to bring all these people en masse. This is not a small, little organic thing. This is engineered. Yeah. Who are the engineers and the architects behind this? They never go there. So let me go back in time a bit, because I'm of Pakistani origin. I was born in Scotland. My parents came over when they were like 17 and 18, right?
From where?
From Pakistan.
Pakistan.
Yeah. So when they were 16, 17, they came over to Scotland. And I was born in Scotland in 1975. So my childhood is in Scotland. And then I moved down to England when I was 25. So I spent half my life down in England, half my life in Scotland. But my parents showed me pictures of them when they were younger. In Pakistan, my mum was wearing flares, tunics. She just had a scarf around her neck, big earrings, all that kind of stuff. The kind of pictures. If you just Google women in India or Pakistan or Iran or
in
Iraq.
In the 60s, 70s, they were like using more Western clothes than we in the West. I know this, yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But in the late 1990s, 2000s onwards, something happened, right? And my mum explains it. She goes, Saudi Arabia and the Gulf Arab states that are all the West's number one friends and allies, they started exporting their religious schools to Pakistan and Afghanistan, and they were free. And in return for having your child educated, they would be indoctrinated with this fundamentalist form of Islam, Wahhabism.
Wahhabism, yeah.
Yeah, and she goes, this isn't native to us. We're not used to this. And now suddenly she goes, when I go back to Pakistan, my mom's 70s and 75. She goes, I don't recognize the country anymore. She goes, the women wear a headdress that's not even native to the Indian subcontinent. It's an Arab headdress. She goes, they have the burqa, the this and that. She goes, I don't understand what's happened in my country. She goes, I left. And she goes, like, everybody's become like weird, fundamental. The men have got all these big beards going on. I remember as a kid going in the 80s and everybody wanted to look like Sylvester Stallone. And now the streets of London, Pakistan, Afghanistan, the men have all got these big beards. They're wearing these traditional clothes that aren't even native to Pakistan or the Indian subcontinent. They're like our clothes. And it's like, what has happened? And I'll tell you what's happened. The West has sponsored and funded their backers in the Middle East and spread a militant form of Islam across the world like a virus. They've then bombed the fuck out of every country that was secular or forward-facing or modernizing, like Libya, like Iran, like Syria. Any country that was resisting the imperialistic hegemon was bombed to the medieval ages. So you've now got open slave markets in Libya. Like, you got...
But on the other hand, what you forget to tell is actually before the fall of the Iron Curtain, it was communism versus capitalism. So that's how Iran fell, because Iran was, they had this socialist being elected there. So the CIA and the MI6 planned a coup, so to get the Shah of Persia into power, and then afterwards people were, they went from democracy to dictatorship, and then people were just like going behind or hiding behind these ayatollahs, and they were like saying, "Hey, we take over and you get your freedom back." Of course, they never give it back.
Well, the ayatollah was actually in the States. He was their guest.
I know. He was in the States, and I know that it's super weird. And similar things happened in Afghanistan. Afghanistan was super free, but they were too socialist, so they were like, okay, we need to overthrow it, and then the Soviet Union was invading, and the US were arming Mujahideen, which turned out to be Al Qaeda later on. So the biggest ally was Osama bin Laden. He was a huge ally of the CIA. I think he was CIA until he died.
But they do that all the time. Like Saddam was their friend, and then they turned on him. Gaddafi.
But you know why Saddam was their friend, right? To fight Iran. So they gave Saddam all the weapons of mass destruction to kill millions of people in Iran. And once he invaded Kuwait, which was, he didn't get in Iran. It didn't lead anywhere. So only people died. Millions of people died on both sides. And he was like, oh, the US promised me oil, And he was like, okay, let's get it from Kuwait then. So he invaded Kuwait, but that was wrong because they were an ally of the US, and the US was invading Iraq. So, first Iraq War. And then the second one, they said like, oh, you have weapons of mass destruction. They remember, they gave him weapons of mass destruction. They gave him all this gas, but he already got rid of it. And and then they killed him. So it's usually always this game. It's geopolitics, and all is in favor of Israel, just to say, and also of Saudi Arabia. We have to mention this part as well. But it's a big mess. It's a very big mess that's it's just happening because of the Western country, and then people are complaining about immigrants coming to their countries. And I agree, they shouldn't come to Europe in this amount. It's destroying Europe. But if you check causalities,
I'll talk about that in a second. But listen, let's go back to still I haven't finished with the Middle East and everything. Everywhere, America and Britain have bombed the hell out of countries that were resisting their hegemony, and the new order is that you break and fragment all these nationalistic countries, make them barbaric and fundamentalist, so that justifies us bombing them, because now we can say to our own population, these aren't civilized, forward-looking democracies. These are fundamentalists. They're barbaric. They go raping around, and they're just not good people. We can bomb them. They're subhuman. We have othered the whole region, created the animals and beasts like Jelani, who is a terrorist, who now in Damascus, if you listen to Vanessa Beeley saying they go rounding up women, kidnapping them, prostituting them, raping them, and killing anybody from an ethnic minority. Christians have been decimated in the Middle East, whether it's Iraq or Syria, and it's all because of the West. They have funded and sponsored all the terrorist organizations. Israel funded Hamas and set it up because it didn't want a secular PLO to work with. And it's all about fragmenting and balkanizing the Middle East so that no one can resist
Hamas
Israel.
I think was about dividing. It was about dividing the Palestinians, right? Because you had Fatah, and then they were like, oh, we need another faction here. We need to divide these people. It's divide and conquer, And then if you consider that only, let's say in 2000, it was in 2006, around that time, only 45% of the votes went to Hamas, and not everybody went to vote, right? So of the people living nowadays, those people who are getting bombed into oblivion, like, of these people, only 3% voted for Hamas. Keep this in mind, right? And these people justify, they voted for Hamas, so it's fine to genocide them. But no, it's 3% of the people, and most of the population in Gaza, in this Warsaw ghetto copy thing is underage, and there's no single justification in the world to bomb these people. And don't get me wrong. I mean, literally, we couldn't care less about what's happening on the other side of the world if our politicians, if our media wouldn't drag us into this conflict, because they don't stop talking about this, and they send money there, and they say like, we need to help these people who are superior, who are God's chosen people. We cannot help these animals. And then I see all these big accounts dehumanizing children who were just bombed to death. And I think when we look back in history, be it Nazism or Stalinism, dehumanization always leads to worse things and justifies the biggest crimes. And I see this again now. People are dehumanized, not just in the Middle East, but also what's happening right now in the US. I mean, the protests shouldn't happen. I think it's a leftist psyop. But still, dehumanizing immigrants who came from Mexico, I think it's wrong. Dehumanization of any person is wrong, and that's what I really, really see a lot. So you have this one group who's superior, like who's like the God's chosen people. Then you have the Christians; they're like somewhere in between, and then it's like Muslims. And just check the big accounts; they all rant against Muslims and call them animals, call them subhumans, call them, words we know from 80, 90 years ago, and they're happening again, and not to the people who are actually committing genocide, but those who are the victims. And this is to me, it's I don't have words for this.
I know. So I've traveled a lot around the world, and I can tell you, I genuinely believe most people are good everywhere. And one of the things that really upset me as a kid growing up was Hollywood portray any Muslim and Arab as a Neanderthal. They're ugly, hairy, grunting, misogynistic, and it was just a cartoon figure. Whereas a lot of these countries are steeped in history, in culture, in civilization, in the arts, in music, in food. And, yes, I have a problem with Islam, and I have a problem with it. But, the modern iteration of Islam is horrific. And, but every religion, if you go back even into Christianity, there was a time when women were treated really badly in the name of Christianity. But, you have modernity, and women get their freedom and their rights, and that happens everywhere. And it was happening in Islamic countries as well. But they were thrown right back, and it was because of the agenda. And I would argue...
No, in the 50s, 60s, Islamic countries were totally westernized, and they were thrown back by military intervention. Yeah.
But every Muslim leader now is in the pocket of the imperialists and globalists. Everyone, none of them is a patriot. None of them actually cares about. And if anyone does come along that is a patriot, they get assassinated or locked up in jail. That's what happens now. There is no true. Yeah, that's what happens. You just, Gaddafi, Assad. You just get taken off the table. That's what happens. And the reality is, I think we're now living in a one world government already. We just have, this facade that there's sovereign nations. Now, what you said about the immigrants was also very true. I just want to explain that to you. So, like, for example, Pakistan is a country of over 100 million. Most people stay there who've got good jobs and, are happy and settled. My dad came over because his dad, was very sick and ended up having a heart attack. So my dad came over to get a better opportunity to make money to then send back to his family. And he worked in the shipyards in Scotland and blah, blah, blah. And he's always worked all his life, never taken any money in benefits, worked literally till the day before he died of cancer at 72, employed people all his life, integrated in society. I can't even speak like his native Pakistani language. And he had a thick Glaswegian accent because he was proper working class. that's the way he brought us up. He said, no, you're going to learn English. You're going to settle into this country and you're going to adopt the values and you should be grateful. And he said, look, back home, there's all these problems. This country's amazing. And, that's the way we were brought up. But a lot of people came over from Pakistan, for example, where there was a dam being built in a very poor area and it flooded the valley of Mirpur. And they were just farmers. They were uneducated. Like my dad, his dad was educated. My mum's side, her dad was a barrister. They came from a very educated family. Like these other people are literally just farmers and peasants, and they come over to Britain. They know nothing. They know nothing about the language. They know nothing about the culture. They don't assimilate. They don't even know much about Islam. And actually, they weren't that bad. But their children, the first generation, like my equivalent, didn't feel like they lived in any world. They didn't belong here. They didn't belong there. And they became somehow radicalized. And there's some people
they're very easy targets if you don't, if you're not culturally integrated anywhere.
Dude, and honestly, the education is a big thing. They're not educated. And educated Pakistanis and Indians look down at those kind of Asian immigrants. They're like, oh my God, look how backward they are. Like they're dissing like that. And like even now, like my mum, she's like, oh my God, who are all these people coming out? They don't work. They're lazy. They're just scheming, scamming the welfare system. When I came, I was working with your dad day and night, the markets, the shoe shop, the whatever. Like, what is it with these people? And why are they letting these people into the country? My mom's doing that. Now, is my mom a racist? And the reality is, little bits of immigration are great for society and culture. It brings new knowledge. It can inject a little bit of life and a bit of zoom into it. But whenever you have mass migration overwhelming the local communities, undermining local communities, undercutting them, their wage, everything, taking over their language or religion, that's not good. And you know what? The Muslims haven't got a monopoly of that. I think last time I checked, it was Anglo-Saxons who wiped out the Native Americans, and it was the Spaniards and Hispanics who got wiped out the South Americans, and they did the same to the Aborigines. So, white people have got a history of doing this. But guess what? India was taken over by the Mongols. The Mughal Empire are the Mongols. They came down, the Mongols, and invaded Pakistan and India and Bangladesh and took it over.
Yeah, the Golden Horde went until Europe, right? They went everywhere.
What I'm saying by this little history lesson is no one people has a monopoly on raping, pillaging, and migrating and taking over. It's not unique to any one group of people or color of people. It happens. Now, I'm not saying this mass migration is right. It is wrong. It is being engineered because they want to break down sovereign nations and communities. And when you have all these people take over and dilute the local countries, they're more dependent on the state, and they will also be less resistant to a one world government.
Yeah.
And I think that's the agenda.
Yeah. You just explained the great replacement theory, so...
Well, we're both anti-Semitic.
Yeah, obviously. But I mean, they call me everything, so it doesn't... I don't care anymore. So I think there's nothing I haven't been called yet. They even called me a communist. It doesn't make sense. So yeah, but online you get called everything. The most common is bigot, Jew hater, Nazi, stuff like that. Anti-vaxxer. Okay, this is not to me. This is social Darwinist. That's happening a lot. I'm a social Darwinist. Yeah, obviously for not supporting the vaccine, for not supporting taxes. I'm a social Darwinist. I couldn't care less.
You've got a list where you said, many of my childhood friends have cut ties with me claiming I'm a Nazi. When I asked exactly what earned me that label, here's what they said, saying there are only two genders. Like, dude, I've gone past the point of being sympathetic, and I'm just saying, like, if that's retarded, saying there's not two genders and there's more. Like, for millennia, hundreds of thousands of years, this was a basic, simple fact. Like, night follows day and day follows night. Now to say that there's more than two genders, I mean, sorry, we should be laughing, mocking, ridiculing, and locking up anyone who believes in that. But we're the ones that are wrong. And then you said you deny man-made climate change. Great, yeah, absolutely. You're again on the right side. You said you're opposing mass immigration. Absolutely, dude. I went on exchange trips when I was a kid, and I went to Germany, and I went to like little towns, and they were beautiful, and they had the culture and the local shops, and Now, like, I don't want to go to Paris or Rome. It's just filled with immigrants. It's dirty. It feels unsafe. They're just selling crap. And the streets are full of high street globalist shops. Like, I hate this whole mass immigration, globalization crap. Yeah. You said you're pointing out that some races commit more crimes than others. That's something that I'm not sure what you're saying, and I'd be interested to know. Rejecting the mRNA gene therapy, fantastic. Supporting my own race and religion, absolutely, why not? And ironically, opposing the actual Nazis in Ukraine. Dude, I'm with you all of that, but what do you mean about some races commit more crimes than others? Because I'm like, is that really a racial thing, or is that
I don't want to say that it comes back right to the race. So I don't think that that a skin color determines how much crime you commit.
You think skin color does?
Not indirectly, but it's not like a direct causation. Okay. Of course, you can put out some theories. For example, it could be, different races have different IQs. For example, you could go back there, or you can even get back to the vitamin D level, which has an impact on your mental well-being. And of course, people with darker skin color have lower levels, and thus, in average, the well-being is worse. But in general, I think it's a cultural thing. So, I don't know. You've been traveling the world, so there in general people who are more aggressive, more prone to attack you or to physically harm you than others. So if you, for example, go to Nordic countries like Finland and Sweden, these people are usually calm. So I think there's hardly any person in Finland who would like stab you because he gets mad at you, and then go to Congo, for example. I think it's a mixture of many factors, and the main factor is cultural. But we can see the crime statistics very clearly in many European countries, and we can see who's getting aggressive and who's killing people. And
But when I was growing up in the 80s, the murder capital of Europe was Glasgow, my hometown. It was a stabbing capital, right? And it was all white people. And I'm telling you right now, they were really scary. Like, really scary. Like, fuck you, all right, pal. I'm going to fucking smash your face in. I mean,
I know. Check the US. The Irish people were, I think, the crime rate of Irish people were also very high. Yeah.
This was a very deprived part of the world. Very poor education, very poor food, and just not educated. Yeah. And I think it's not really the color, it's the education.
It's culture, education. Education is part of the culture. So,
yeah. Take, for example, North America. North American blacks have been denied. They've just been enslaved, and even they never got their freedom. They were just indentured slaves and then wage slaves, and they were deliberately fueled with alcohol, drugs. It was promoted not to have a father raising them up, and so that whole, and then any misdemeanor, they go sent off to prison, and the prison system is a racket to make money, to work the fields or whatever. So you've got a society, one generation after another, where children are being brought up without a father figure. It destroys their culture. And what I'm trying to say is, after a century, those black kids, I mean, they're just, the families decide they're fucked. And that's not because they're black. It's because the system and the government has fucked them over for a century. Some of the most evil people have been white people, or Jewish people, or Chinese people, or the Mongols. Take, for example, the Brits. They went to China with gunboats and said, we're going to have all your population taking opium and becoming addicts. And if you say no, our gunboats are going to bomb your cities. I mean, and they
what
did.
Britain did in India alone is, wow, hardly anyone knows. Yeah.
So I know, and I can tell you about what they did to India. Now, what I'm trying to say is, imagine the Chinese came up the Hudson River and said, we're going to bomb Manhattan until you allow us to sell fentanyl to everyone. Everybody would be like, what the
Yeah, this is literally what happened in China, opium wars. Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is, I genuinely don't think it comes down to color. I mean, I've operated on every skin color there is, and I'm telling you right now, inside everyone's the same. You know, and when I was a kid, I used to think, man, why is it all the Pakistani families got all the drama? Like my mum and dad would discuss the juicy gossip, right, in the mosque and the community. And I was like, what the? I just want to be like a white kid. Like they just all seem calm and happy. And then I married my wife, right, and her ancestry is really interesting. It's Dutch Jewish, going back 150 years ago. Her great whatever grandfather was a Gompertz. He came over with the Rothschilds. Anyway, her family converted to Christianity 100 years ago, but she's got a very interesting background, but she's white. And I got to know her family. No disrespect to her family. I love her family. But I remember saying to my wife once, oh my God, does your family have Pakistani genes? Because Jesus, they've got a lot of drama in your family. And she's like, no, it's just, this is what families are like. Everyone's got drama. And and honestly, the more time has gone by, I realized we're all the same, man. We're all the same.
Yeah, I'm just saying. So my post regarding skin color and crime, I stand with this. Look at the crime statistics. It's happening in the US. You can see that that black people, for example, commit way more crimes than white people. But the question is always, as you said, is like what's causing this, you know? And there are many factors. But I think everybody should be allowed to speak about it. If you don't speak about it, you cannot solve the problem. Check, for example, in Sweden. You know, how many people from Somalia there commit crimes, rape crimes, and how many white people? These statistics are super crazy. They're super wild. And once people say, oh, it's racist to talk about this, you cannot solve the problem. So I think these statistics are very interesting, and they point at many directions. And in order to find the root cause of this issue and eliminate this, you should be allowed to talk about this. So I'm talking about this. Of course, there are many evil white people. Even to me, the most evil people in history are communists. You know, look how many they kill, and communists come in many colors. So it's an ideological, cultural thing. I believe that makes you such a person. So I don't know many libertarians who are aggressive and murderous. So I think the freer people are, you know, the less they care about any ideologies, and the more they just want to live their lives. And I think this is the way to go, by the way. But it doesn't. Yeah.
I agree about you speaking about it doesn't matter what the color. So we've had a problem with grooming gangs, Asian grooming gangs, Pakistani grooming gangs, Muslim grooming gangs here in the UK. Big UK, but the thing is, like, I've spoken to quite a few people, and the reality is, they're no different than any other community. White people, black people, they're the same percentage. So it's not like Pakistani people are raping and grooming more than any other group. It's just all the same.
Are you sure? Because I haven't seen the statistics, so I cannot make a comment. But usually, you know, it's you should look at the statistic per capita, you know.
But the difference is these Asian grooming gangs are targeting specifically more often white girls. Now, that's not that they're not targeting their own girls. I've had Asian Pakistani girls contact me and say, we've been raped by these gangs. And honestly, they said we don't go public, we don't go to the police or anything, because we get totally ostracized. Yes. And it just destroys any prospect of getting married. We get literally ostracized from our family, and there's a big shame attached to it. So it's really murky. So it looks superficially like they're targeting white girls, but it's actually a huge problem within the community as well. But it's just not, those people don't come out. They don't come forward because they're scared, or they just don't want to do it.
Yeah, Tommy Robinson would never tell you this part of the story, by the way.
Yeah, I know. But it's always a lot bit more complicated. But the reality is, you need to be talking about this. You need to be talking about it, like, what's going on? Like, why are these guys going around saying they're good Muslims and going to the mosque? And why are they getting protected by the elders, which they are? And why are they targeting young girls, these white young girls, and plying them with drugs and alcohol? Where the hell are the white girls' parents? Why are they not looking after their kids? Like, there's so many questions. Like, what if it's going on? But there are grooming gangs everywhere. And the amount of abuse and everything that's going on is huge. But, you know, I've spoken to so many people now, so many people, white people, like, who tell me they were raped by their dad, raped by their uncle. And it's like, this evil there's no monopoly to any one race. which is why, I even I get very uncomfortable when people say online, "Oh, it's the Jews, the Jewish people are like this." No, I know a lot of really good Jews. I think they're just some bad Jews, and they've got a lot of power at this moment in time in history. And we should call it out. We should talk about it. But we're not even allowed to go there. We can't talk about the grooming gangs. You can't talk about the Muslim grooming gangs. You can't talk about the bad Jews.
No, but you can talk about white men. Heterosexual white men you can talk about. That's the only thing these days.
You can. So I've talked about this as a kid growing up. I had a tiny bit of racism towards me, tiny bit, not very much, tiny bit, packy, nigger, chinky. I had that kind of stuff. Not very much. Our shoe shop once the windows were smashed in. Once we had dog poo thrown in. My dad was hit over the head by some NF, National Front people. So we've had a little bit, but on the whole grand scheme of things, it was great. But I'm telling you right now, the pendulum has swung a tiny bit from one side so far the other side that I find it really, I get very angry. I feel like a young, straight, white kid today is prejudiced against so much, and it's not fair. Like, if they don't have a identifying characteristic, if they're not trans or non-binary or whatever.
If you don't identify a barn animal anymore, you get into problems. So, yeah.
That white straight kid is screwed. They can't get a job. It's not even a young white kid. There's a guy in my village who was a wonderful film editor, and he processed the camera. Well, I don't know the details. He said I was really good at my job, and he doesn't have a job now. I said, why? Like, what? He goes, look, I was self-employed. I was a contractor. I would get all these jobs and gigs, but the problem is, I've given up now because when I go for interviews, they go, sorry, you're not filling our quota. And he goes, what do you mean? Oh, well, our DEI, ESG think we need someone who's a woman. We need someone who's ethnic minority. We need a trans one. And we can't just give you the job. And I was like, don't you care how good that person is? They're like, no, we need to hit the quota. And he's 52, and he's come to this so many times now. He's just given up. His wife's the main breadwinner, and now he just roasts coffee. And I don't know what else he does, but I feel sorry for him. It's like, what the? So it's not even young straight white kids. Even older white people are now just disadvantaged. And this is bullshit. This is racism. And I think racism is when you keep talking about color. Just treat people for who they are and their merits. And that's it. If you really want to be not racist, don't talk about color.
Yeah, individualism. But I mean, I like to generalize. To get back to the problem, the root cause of the problem. But what I don't accept is, for example, if I meet someone, and he's, I don't know, he's a black or a Jew or gay or whatever, it would be totally wrong to say he's this, so I'm not going to talk to him, So you have to see everybody as an individual, as an individuum. I think this is the most important thing, individualism. Because everybody is different. So you cannot say okay, the likelihood that he does this and that is higher than for the others, so I'm avoiding him. But on the other hand, for example, if I'm somewhere in a big city in the US and I see a small group of 5 or 6 people who look different than me and who are walking towards me, I would cross the street. So it's a normal thing. But I wouldn't judge any of them personally if I met them at the bar. You understand? So there I distinguish, of course. But I think it's fair to look into statistics. I mean, there are statistics about everything. This can be the skin color, this can be the origin, this can be the height, it's given that smaller men, like Napoleon, Macron, have their issues too and behave that way. So you can look into many things. But I think it shouldn't be a taboo to discuss this, right? So I think discussing these things is important, but you shouldn't judge someone just because he has a specific opinion or depends on the opinion, of course, but or background or something he cannot change or he or she cannot change. So you cannot change your origin. You cannot change where you were born. It's outside of your power. Of course, there are things you can change about yourself.
But I think you're right. I mean, you can't talk about someone's gender now. You can't talk about if they're Muslim. You can't talk about them if they're Jew. But if they're white.
Yeah, white and Muslim works. You can talk about that, yeah. But nothing else. So that's an issue to me.
recently, I was looking at the American government and executive governments and how many of them have dual citizenships for a certain country, for God's chosen people. And I was just like, wow, that's really interesting. Like, that's quite unusual. Like, just imagine all of them were Greek dual citizens. People are like, what is going on there? Like, people would say, like, that's weird.
That's because of APAC. So they're all literally paid off. Yeah.
Or, Iranian dual citizens, or Pakistan, or nasty Muslim dual citizens. Just imagine, like, even Brazil, right? Lovely Brazil. Who doesn't love Brazil, right? You got a bunch of hot Brazilians, dual citizens, in American government. Everybody be like, what the fuck's going on this year? Like, with all this dual citizenship.
Yeah.
But year after year, term after term, you've got this very heavy influence. And it's like, you can't talk about it. It's America first, supposedly.
Yeah,
It doesn't look like it.
But I have to go soon. I have to go to my chicken. It's getting dark here. And if I don't bring them outside, it's the puma, the jaguar is gonna enjoy a huge dinner, which it did several weeks ago. So I wouldn't want this massacre to happen again.
No, I don't want that to happen. I don't know if you want to quickly put them back in and then come back. 'Cause I really wanted to ask you about what you think of Maha.
Well, I can give you 5 more minutes. Maha, I don't know. I don't know. So the idea in the beginning was great, but what's happening now, with all these new mRNA shots for cancer and for whatever, I don't know. At least there's awareness rising, so that's good. So people are getting more aware of seed oils, are getting more aware of several things. But I think this movement is not homogeneous. So there are many people who are saying, "Oh, I'm MAGA," or like, but everybody has a different view on things, which is quite normal. Maybe that's not even a bad thing. But if they really cared about it, they would do more than they do now. But at least, there's something going on that they try to get fluoride out of the tap water. But if they really cared about the health, they would go after these high fructose corn syrups, and as well, like vegetable oils and processed food stuff. But that's not going to happen. So,
what about the mRNA jabs? Nothing's happening about that.
I don't know. Promises made, promises not kept. These are politicians. You can tell me one politician who's keeping their word. I don't know any, so I'm not surprised.
It's very sad. So I take it then you're not a fan of Elon and Trump?
I don't know. I think Elon is trying to do his best. I think he's I see him. My view on him isn't positive. Let's put it like this. There's lots I don't agree on what he's saying or doing, especially doing. But I think he's a huge net positive for the Western world. But time will tell. We know what's happening with this Brainlink thing and with other projects. So, and also his relationship to Peter Thiel, I think I see him very critically. Yeah, we have to see, but for now, I think he's net positive, which is always good because it's positive, Yeah, but Trump is like, there are good parts, there are bad parts, and what I heard from others who are more closer to them, many things are being said in the background. I agree with that they can't make public for several reasons, foreign influence, which influence. So I think. Not everything seems as it appears, but also the opposite of the case. So there's many things that are happening that might not be true, especially the Epstein things issue. And I'm just an observer, and I'm not anywhere with them in the back rooms. And the backroom deals are maybe they would scare me off, maybe they would make me more positive. I don't know. It's politics. I don't have a very high opinion on politicians at all.
Me neither. Well, listen, I don't want your chickens to die.
Yeah.
So there's one last question of the day. My final question of the day is, when you're on your deathbed, surrounded by your loved ones, what words of wisdom and advice would you give them before you pass away?
Actually, I was thinking about this yesterday. It's super scary that you ask it. And I think, actually these questions, I'm always saying like, oh, I don't know. But I was thinking about this yesterday. I'm not a deathbed. I'm thinking like, what is lacking these days with people, And I think it's what people can't anymore. And I mean, like, I know my grandma could and everything else. They could enjoy moments of life, that they could enjoy the now, the moment right now. So when you're having a good meal, just enjoy it. Don't just like, eat it and then like enjoy the moment. I think this is something I learned here in the jungle when being alone a lot. When my wife is in the town working and I'm here alone, it's how to enjoy the moment. Just, stepping outside in the sun barefoot, like, it's just enjoying the moment. Just like you have to be totally aware that you have to enjoy the moment, that moment. Otherwise you don't enjoy it that much. But this awareness of, now I can enjoy the moment. I think this is something everybody should do. And it gives you, it improves lives a lot. And I figured out, okay, I'm still not old. I still have many years to live. But anyway, I think this is what I would tell people. Try to learn to enjoy the moment. Yeah.
I think it's great. So today I had a consultation. I do these health advocacy consultations and I talk about, lots of different things. And one of the things my client patient said today was, I get really worried about the future and I don't know how you cope. And I said, it's really simple. I just enjoy the moment. And literally the words that you're using. I go, look, I was just sitting outside in the deck chair. There's a bit of sun. I'm barefoot, grounding. I'm watching the chickens. I'm enjoying writing my Substack. I have my freedom. I've got my lovely children. I've got my beautiful wife. I'm going to enjoy my meal later on today. That's it. You just enjoy what you have right now. Don't worry too much about the stuff that's out of your control.
Most people think, okay,
Otherwise,
I
they've
need more. They're not happy what they have. They always want to get more. How can we get the new phone? How can I buy the new thing? But they don't make you happy. Nothing makes you happy. Nothing you can buy makes you happy. Just this one moment right now can make you happy. And this is something people should realize. I'm not a philosopher, so I mean, like I can say a lot about this, but just like my simple thoughts on what I would say to people as an advice. Because otherwise not worth living, right? But always chasing the better or chasing new goals. I mean, like, it's good to have goals, but always chasing them doesn't lead you anywhere. You at one point you must just enjoy what you have. And whenever you have a moment of gratitude or of something you enjoy, and be this watching a football game or whatever, just relax, think about this, be aware that this is a great moment and just enjoy it.
Absolutely. Listen, Simon, it's been great chatting to you. Finally, promise me you're not going to take another 2 years to talk to me next time.
I will see.
Oh, what do you mean I will see? You might say, no, of course. Cheeky bugger. I, Ahmed Malik, am a private civilian protected by the Geneva Convention.
My Substack, social media posts, and podcasts are my personal experiences, observations, and opinions. This information is for educational purposes only. Although I am a doctor, I am not your doctor, and I am not providing medical or legal advice to you or to the wider public. I am not licensed or registered with the GMC or any other licensing board. The responsibility for the interpretation, due diligence, and use of the information from my Substack and my podcast lies with you, the viewer and/or listener. Please do your research and use your discernment. It is not my intention to harass, intimidate, offend, defame, conspire, blackmail, coerce, or cause anxiety, alarm, or distress to any man or woman, and the information presented here is done so with peaceful and honourable intentions. Enjoy, folks.